Good morning. Hope everyone's Monday is starting off strong. I am Harlan Pickett, president of Eagle Care Health Solutions. As we do every week, we're going to get you caught up on what's going on in our industry. Get ready. The kickstart will begin right after our countdown. And good morning once again. My name is Harlan Pickett, president of Eagle Care Health Solutions, coming to you live from San Antonio, Texas. Hope everyone had a super blessed weekend. Happy belated Father's Day to all you dads out there. It was a great Father's Day for myself. We got to spend it with my dad, and it was great. Only thing missing was my son. He was not able to be with us because they live a little bit of a distance away. So I hope that they had a wonderful time with his wife's father and got to have a great Father's Day as well. All right, we're going to jump into this thing. Don't forget, if you have any comments or any questions, be sure and put those in the chat box. We will get to those at the end of the show. We also do follow up after the show. If you're watching this after the fact, then be sure and put any comments or questions that you have in the feed afterwards, and we can follow up with you as well. All right. How about lots and lots of money? Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of money, right? U.S. healthcare system looking to hit a spend of almost $8 trillion by 2032. Yeah, that's right. With a T, $8 trillion. Now, interestingly enough, we've been using the number lots of times. We've been following this. We've been using the number of 4.5 trillion in 2023. Well, after all the adjustments were made, it appears that it was closer to 5. So it was $4.8 trillion that was spent in 2023 on healthcare. I would guess, looking at the way I have seen trends going so far this year, that we will top that 5 trillion or be real daggone close to it for 2024 when it's all said and done. There's still a lot of people getting things that done now that they had put off before COVID. And of course, all the insurance companies are screaming about that because, they had those couple of really good years when no one was doing anything. People say, well, what about all the cost of COVID? That was very minimal compared to all the things people put off doing. But yeah, it's time to pay the piper now. And of course, we're all hearing about all the additional things that are being done because of the higher rates of cancer and things that are finding now that people put off, didn't have regular things done, didn't have some diagnosis done, of course, didn't have some treatments done. And so now we find ourselves playing catch up. But the federal actuaries have come up with this 7.7 trillion actually by 2032 because of the growing demand, record levels of insured patients, because there's more people insured now than there has been in any other time. Also because of the huge enrollment. We know more people, 10,000 plus a day, qualifying for Medicare. And so that continued increased enrollment is going to drive up that annual spend. They're expecting it to be $7.7 trillion. Now, remember, as I mentioned, it's 4.8 trillion this last year. Now, another interesting thing is that they're expecting, which this is still not good news, the same actuaries looking at this, that we're going to have an annual inflation of about 4.3%. But if you use the numbers and say, okay, if we're going from 4.8 to 7.7 in an 8-year period of time, what does that look like? Well, that's actually a 5.6% increase per year is what they're projecting the cost of healthcare to be. So that's going to even outstrip their expectation of inflation. So not any good news there. One of the other things that kind of correlates with this a little bit, and there's a couple of things that could happen in this, so we don't know exactly what it's going to look like overall, because we still have a couple more years of the increased tax credits that whenever they did that in the during COVID, they they increased the number of people and the amount that tax credits for ACA plans. But in the next couple of years, it's very, very possible, because of the continued expansion of Medicare, and more people getting on it, and then more people getting on ACA plans because of this. And of course, if they're not on ACA, they're on Medicaid in many cases. Those are kind of rocking back and forth right now with the Medicaid redetermination. But what's interesting is we're the closest we've ever been right now to people being on federal plans being the greater number of people than folks that are on commercial health plans. And it's very, very possible that in this 8-year period of time, looking at different numbers, and will this become a permanent thing as far as the tax credits? Will that become permanent? If it does, it's almost guaranteed that there will be more people on government subsidized health plans than there are commercial health plans, regardless of any changes that may be made towards, say, a single payer system. But that commercial plans will be, for the first time in almost forever, will be a minority of the folks out there. They still are the majority without a doubt, but it is more and more every year, especially with the latest things that have been done. We're seeing a bigger and bigger amount of folks that are on government subsidized plans of some type. And if it keeps going the way it is, then we're going to see folks that are not getting their plans from from work anymore. And there's already a number of things in place to keep that from happening, like the family glitch that they fixed, which allows folks to be on ACA plans and the primary person to be still on an employer plan as well. Anyway, it'd be interesting to see what happens down the road on that. Now, talking about employer coverage, kind of an interesting story. This is a very timely report that I read, because more employers are now deciding to cover GLP-1s just for weight loss. So there was already a whole bunch of them that covered it. Almost 60% covered it, a GLP-1 for diabetes. But now we're seeing an upward trend on folks, on companies. About 1 in 3 employers are now covering GLP-1s just for weight loss. Now, I say it's a timely issue because I recently, just this past week actually, had a client that was on a employer plan that did cover Wegovy in this case. And because of retirement, she's now on an ACA plan, whereas her spouse was old enough to be on Medicare. She is not. And there was not a single ACA plan that covered Wegovy. A follow-up report I looked on that showed, and they're saying, there's not very many of them. Well, 1%, 1% of Affordable Care Act plans actually cover Wegovy for weight loss. So, she was obviously very disappointed in this, but the trend is kind of the opposite on the employer side, which I thought was interesting because, of course, what we see when we see the increase to 34% of employers covering it, up from 28% in 2022, the corresponding numbers then are that it's a bigger spend of the total healthcare cost for those employers. And we are seeing that it's up to about 9% in 2023 from 7% in 2022. So if more folks are going to cover it, then obviously it's going to be a bigger spend, because those can be up to $15,000 per employee per year for those medications. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on in the future. And if we have more and more employers continue to go down that direction, we know that it's being sought out by employees. And so if that's something they have to do to make employees happy, to keep folks from moving on, or to attract folks to quality jobs, then I think it's going to keep going. It's the price that you have to pay to be competitive in some cases. But it'll be interesting to see as things go forward on that. Now, this next story, I wasn't sure I wanted to even bring up, because it really is very specific to folks that do Medicare Advantage. And a lot of the folks that, of course, listen to this show are on the employer group side, and so don't really talk about it too much. But it does really apply to you as well, because many of you may do some Medicare Advantage plans as offerings for group. But the interesting part of this is that it really, I mean, I didn't expect this to happen. I do Medicare itself, but usually whenever CMS comes up with their star ratings, that's what it is. But CMS is actually going to recalculate their Medicare Advantage star ratings because a couple of lawsuits, one by Elevance and the other one by Scan Health, they won their lawsuits, or won enough of it. In Elevance's case, Scan won their entire lawsuit. Elevance got enough of a win that it made CMS step back, because in essence, they said, hey, these guys did not follow the Administrative Procedure Act whenever they did this new methodology. And the new methodology made it much more difficult for plans to get a higher rating. I'm not going to go into all the details of why, because it's pretty complicated of what they have to do. Certain instances of outliers, whatever, it doesn't make any difference why. The fact is it did. Now, here's why it's important. Okay, great, Harlan, who cares? Well, here's why it's important. Because plans must achieve a star rating of 4 or higher to receive the quality bonus from CMS. Those are payments that are above and beyond what they are regularly paid for offering their Medicare Advantage plans. Well, the ratings then will determine how much bonus these plans earn in 2025. Now, that's important because in theory, this is millions of dollars we're talking about. In theory, those plans could then use those funds to offer more generous benefits in 2025. In fact, that's what CMS is expecting, because they have, once this redetermination happens, once they recalculate this, they're actually giving an extension to Medicare Advantage plans to put in their 2025 bids or show their plan, what they expect to offer in their plans, so that they can show additional benefits that they may not have been doing otherwise. So I think it's interesting simply because it's pretty rare when CMS kind of crawled its back so quickly on something. This had to happen very, very quickly in this case, because these plans, the final plans, have to be out there. I've already received emails from certain carriers that are showing what their plan designs are going to look like. Yes, they're pending approval, but they're already complete. They've already got everything out there pending CMS approval. This is what our plans will look like in 2025. So it's the timing of this, to me, is what made it really stand out, because I think that's important. But if one of the things that has been talked about on the Medicare Advantage side is because of the increased amount of usage on these Medicare Advantage plans, that we're going to see some of the benefits that folks sign up for and are so happy with are going to go away. That they're going to start kind of paring down some of these things. Maybe you don't get that gym membership anymore, or maybe you don't get quite as much dental, or maybe there is no hearing benefit now, or whatever. They're going to start paring down some of those benefits. Well, we'll see if that happens, but I think this is a step in the direction for people that like Medicare Advantage, and the majority of folks that get Medicare coverages of some kind now, they've switched to Medicare Advantage. I can't say that I'm the biggest fan of them all the time, but they are a good fit in some cases. All right, we're going to move on to our last story. Man, I saved the best one for last. I should have warned you all about this to begin with, but if you're still around, and there's still a number of you that I see are watching, this one is crazy. My buddy Matt Ort would just be pulling his hair out. I'm going to make sure I share this with him so that he can see he can see that his former brethren are under the gun. 86% of workers say they are afraid of HR reps. Wow. But the numbers kind of get crazier, guys. So you would say, how can it get crazier than 86% are afraid of HR reps, right? Well, 90% of employees said that their concerns were not adequately addressed when reporting them to HR. Man, well, how does that build trust, right? How can I, if I'm bringing something to you that I'm concerned about or that I have a problem with, and 90% of the time nothing happens, or I'm not satisfied in any way. Yikes. That's pretty rough. So this new report shared by My Perfect Resume found that employees fear HR greatly, and it impacts their willingness to discuss work-related issues. Okay, if I don't trust you, I don't like you, I'm afraid of you, I'm not going to talk to you about stuff. 85% said that they hesitate to approach HR, citing concerns such as they doubt their confidentiality. That would be a concern, right? And they're afraid or have fear of repercussions. Wow. Yeah, that's a big deal. That's a big deal if they have fear of repercussions. A large majority, so 71%, also believe that HR departments are too involved in office politics. Well, I was in corporate America for 19 years. It's been a long time since I was there, but I was in it for 19 years. Man, I don't doubt this whatsoever. It seems like anyone at a certain point almost had to be, but HR departments, that's of course, that's one of the reasons they feel repercussions, right? If they feel they're involved in politics, then maybe they're going to use my situation as something to help leverage and lift them up. Anyway, crazy stuff. They also felt that, and I think this is really key. It's not as big a number, but it's very key. And it's 37% felt that HR was unapproachable and ineffective. Yikes. And that is tough stuff right there. Now, I bring this HR up for a very specific point, and that is typically, this is, of course, who we deal with in one way or another when we're talking about health benefits. But survey after survey after survey shows that HR believes that the plan is working great. They love the plan, and the employees love the plan. But if there's this huge disconnect, and this is what this report shows, if there's this huge disconnect between HR and the employees don't trust them and don't want to talk to them, and they have fear of them, then how in the world does HR know what the employees like or dislike about their plan? How do they know anything about that? Maybe they personally have a feeling about it. Maybe HR likes the plan. Maybe they like their broker. Maybe they like something about that. Who knows? But what is going on with this relationship that they believe everything is going well, when we see really a lot of times the numbers show just the opposite on the employee side? The employees come back and say, no, I don't like this plan. It's not affordable. Our deductible's too high. My doctor doesn't take it anymore. Whatever it is, they are not happy with the plan. So I think this is just a huge shout out to you folks out there that are involved in HR. Hopefully this is a wake-up call to look at this and say, man, we've got to do better. And it's across the board. I mean, employees have got to do better too. Employees have got to do better in making themselves heard. I don't know what the answer is. That is not my world. I certainly am not in HR whatsoever, but I do know in dealing with HR folks and employees that the disconnect is real. And I think this survey proves it out. All right, we are, that's about it. All I got for you today. Is there any comments? Don't see any comments on here. Let me jump up real quick. Nope, don't see any comments. Don't forget, you can also leave those comments afterwards. We will be at the National Association of Benefits and Insurance Professionals Conference, annual conference next week in Chicago, so NABIP. And so we will record this beforehand, and it will be a recording that is released next week. Just want to give you guys a heads up on that. Hope everyone has a super blessed week. Don't forget to catch us each and every week right here. And then, of course, we have the latest iteration of Why Does Healthcare Suck? That, because of NABIP, will not be on the last Tuesday. So not next Tuesday, but next Thursday, that we will have that episode. All right, everyone, have a super blessed week, and we'll catch you next time on the Kickstart. We are out of here.